Your armor cost more than a village. Your warhorse cost more than your armor. You have trained for war since the age of 7, first as a page, then as a squire, then as a knight. You are, quite literally, the most expensive weapon your civilization knows how to build, and a farmer's son you would never let through your front door is about to kill you from 200 yards away with a bent stick and some goose feathers. That, more than the arrow itself, is what medieval knights feared about the longbow. It didn't just kill men, it killed the rules. Start with the weapon. The English warbow was about 6 feet of yew, and the bows recovered from the wreck of the Mary Rose, Henry VIII's warship, had draw weights well over 100 pounds, with some estimated at 150 or more. For comparison, a modern recreational archer pulls maybe 40. A trained longbowman could put 10 or more arrows in the air every minute and keep doing it, volley after volley. A crossbowman of the same era managed roughly 2. Nobody could just pick up this weapon. Pulling a warbow was less like shooting and more like lifting a small adult with 3 fingers over and over all day. Archaeologists who examined the skeletons of the Mary Rose archers found their bodies had been physically reshaped by it. Thickened left arms, twisted spines, shoulder joints deformed from a lifetime of practice. And it did take a lifetime. That's why in 1363 King Edward III made archery practice compulsory for able-bodied men and banned other sports on Sundays because they were distracting from it. England wasn't training archers. England was farming them, by law, a generation at a time. Then came the battles that made the fear rational. At Crecy in 1346, English longbowmen shattered wave after wave of French cavalry charges, and the chronicler Froissart described arrows falling so thickly that they seemed like snow. At Agincourt in 1415, an exhausted, outnumbered English army stood behind a field of mud, and by the end of the day, thousands of French soldiers were dead, including a staggering share of the French nobility. Some of the finest armored warriors in Europe died face down in the muck, brought down by men who earned in a year what a knight spent on spurs. And here's the detail that made it sting. Medieval warfare had an economy. A captured knight wasn't killed, he was ransomed, sold back to his family like a very expensive lost wallet. War for the nobility had a survivable business model, but an arrow at 200 yards doesn't check your family crest. It doesn't take prisoners, doesn't negotiate, and doesn't care that your ancestors fought at someone's coronation. The longbow made the battlefield horrifyingly democratic, and the people at the top of that hierarchy understood exactly what that meant. Across Europe, knightly culture sneered at the bow as a coward's weapon, a peasant's weapon, dishonorable. Notice that nobody calls a weapon dishonorable unless it's working. So why don't we live in a world of longbowmen? Because the longbow had one fatal weakness, and it wasn't armor. It was the training. A longbowman took 20 years to make. A musketeer took a few weeks. When gunpowder arrived, it did to the archer exactly what the archer had done to the knight. It made an elite skill irrelevant by making killing scalable. By the mid-1500s, even England, the longbow's greatest believer, was phasing it out. The weapon that ended one aristocracy was retired by an even more democratic one. But for roughly a century, the longbow held a mirror up to the medieval world, and the reflection was ugly. All the armor, the bloodlines, the castles, the code of chivalry, all of it could be undone by a quiet man in a field who had spent his Sundays practicing. Knights didn't fear the longbow because it could kill them. Swords could kill them. Lances could kill them. They feared it because of who was holding it. The longbow was the first loud announcement of a rule that has never stopped being true since. No matter how expensive, how prestigious, or how ancient your advantage is, somewhere out there is a cheaper technology that doesn't respect it. The knights heard that announcement at Crecy. Their grandchildren heard it again at Agincourt, and the archers themselves heard it 1 century later from the barrel of a gun.